The champagne glass in my hand was shaking. Not enough for anyone to notice. I'd learned years ago how to hide fear beneath professional composure. But enough that the Moët Chandon caught the light from the Baccarat chandelier and sent prismatic warnings across my day. Knuckles. I had maybe 3 minutes before the man at table 7 put a bullet through Kang Jae-sung's skull, and I was the only person in this entire restaurant who knew it was coming. The Azure Lotus wasn't just upscale, it was the kind of establishment where Chicago's elite came to see and be seen, where a single dinner reservation required connections most people would never have, where the sommelier spoke 7 languages and could identify the terroir of a Burgundy from scent alone. The walls were hung with silk panels hand-painted in Seoul. The floors were Italian marble so white it looked like walking on clouds, and the ambient temperature was maintained at exactly 72 degrees to preserve the $4,000 flower arrangements that adorned every corner. I'd worked here for 11 months, long enough to recognize the patterns, the hierarchies, the unspoken rules that governed who sat where and why. Long enough to know that when Kang Jae-sung occupied the corner booth with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River, it wasn't just dinner, it was theater. A public display of power that said, "I own this city, and I'm not hiding." At 28, Kang Jae-sung looked like he'd been carved from obsidian in winter. His suit was bespoke, probably Ermenegildo Zegna, charcoal with subtle pinstripes that caught the light when he moved. His hair was styled with the kind of casual perfection that took either money or genetics sharp black, swept back from a face that was all angles and controlled fury. High cheekbones that could cut glass. A jaw that looked like it had been drawn with a ruler. Eyes so dark they absorbed light without reflecting it back. But it was his stillness that marked him as dangerous. While everyone else in the restaurant moved shifting in seats, gesturing while they talked, fidgeting with phones and wine glasses, Jae-sung sat perfectly motionless. The kind of stillness that predators had, that made every small movement feel deliberate, intentional, lethal. I'd served him exactly 7 times in the past 11 months. Each time, he'd ordered the same thing. The omakase tasting menu, Hibiki 21-year whiskey, neat, and silence. He never made small talk, never smiled at my attempts at service pleasantries, never looked at me like I was anything more than a person-shaped delivery system for food and drink, which was fine. I preferred being invisible. Invisible meant safe. Invisible meant tips without complications. Invisible meant I could work my shifts, visit my grandmother at the nursing home on the south side, pay down her medical debt 1 paycheck at a time, and exist in the narrow space between survival and ambition. Except tonight, invisible had just become impossible. 20 minutes ago, I'd been in the service corridor between the kitchen and the main dining room, that narrow, fluorescent-lit hallway, where servers moved with practiced efficiency, where chefs barked orders in Cantonese and Spanish, where the polished elegance of the front of house gave way to the controlled chaos of actually running a restaurant. I'd been reaching for a tray of appetizers when I'd heard them. 2 voices, male, speaking in low tones that carried the particular frequency of conspiracy. They were around the corner, just out of sight, probably thinking the ambient kitchen noise would cover their conversation. It almost did. 7 o'clock, when he cuts the tuna. The first voice had a Chicago accent, flat vowels and hard consonants. I didn't recognize it. "You're sure you can get a clean shot?" The second voice was different, softer, almost cultured, with the faintest trace of an accent I couldn't place. "Line of sight is perfect. He always sits with his back to the windows. Thinks the bulletproof glass makes him invincible." A dark chuckle. "It's rated for 9mm, maybe. 45. Not for what I'm carrying." My hands had frozen on the tray. My brain was trying to process what I was hearing, trying to reconcile the clinical discussion of murder with the fact that I was standing 3 feet away holding crab cakes. And the weapon? Already in position. I planted it this morning during the produce delivery. It's under the server station at table 7, taped to the underside. Nobody checks there. Table 7, my section. The table currently occupied by a retired judge and his wife, celebrating their 40th anniversary, completely unaware that a high-powered rifle was hidden 18 inches below their dessert forks. When he takes the first bite of the toro, that's when everyone's attention will be on the chef's presentation. Theatrical bullshit, but it works in our favor. I take the shot, drop the rifle, walk out through the kitchen exit. 60 seconds, total. And the girl? My heart had stopped. The girl. They were talking about me. The waitress? She's nobody. If she sees something, we handle it, but she won't. These people. The contempt in his voice was thick enough to choke on. They see through us. We're wallpaper. Furniture. She'll be so focused on not spilling the champagne, she won't notice a damn thing. They'd moved then, footsteps receding down the corridor. I'd stood there for 10 full seconds, tray still in my hands, trying to decide what to do. Call the police? And tell them that I'd overheard a conversation that might have been about a hypothetical shooting? That I had no names, no faces, no proof beyond my word against. Against who? I didn't even know who'd been speaking. Tell my manager? Amir was a good man, but he'd built his career on discretion, on never asking questions about the clientele, on maintaining the Azure Lotus's reputation as a place where privacy was absolute. He'd probably assume I was confused, paranoid, trying to cause drama. Tell Kang Jae-sung? Walk up to one of the most powerful men in Chicago's criminal underworld and warn him that someone was trying to kill him? He'd either think I was insane or complicit, and either way, I'd paint a target on my own back. Or I could do nothing. Keep my head down, serve the toro, let whatever was going to happen just happen. It wasn't my business. These people, the Kangs, the triads, the families that carved up Chicago like a pie and served it to each other with violence and cash they'd chosen this life. They knew the risks. But then I'd thought about my grandmother, about how she'd raised me after my parents died, how she'd worked 3 jobs to keep me in school, how she'd taught me that silence in the face of injustice was just another form of complicity. You see something wrong, Amara, she'd said 1,000 times in her lilting Jamaican accent. You got 2 choices. You can look away and live small, or you can stand up and live true. But you can't do both. So I'd made my choice. I'd walked back into the dining room, smile fixed in place, and started looking for the gun. Table 7's server station was exactly where the voice had said it would be, a narrow cabinet built into the wall, barely 3 feet wide, where we kept extra napkins, silverware, water pitchers. I'd knelt down, pretending to organize supplies, and reached underneath. My fingers had found it immediately. Cold metal, taped in place with industrial adhesive. The rifle was compact, broken down into components, but even disassembled I could feel its purpose. This wasn't a weapon for show. This was an execution tool. I'd had maybe 30 seconds to decide what to do. Taking it would be stealing, would be interfering, would be stepping into a world I had no business touching. Leaving it would be complicity, would be letting a man die 3 tables away from me while I poured wine and smiled. My hands had moved before my brain finished arguing with itself. I'd peeled the rifle free, piece by piece, and tucked the components into my server's apron, the long black one with deep pockets that all the waitstaff wore. The metal was cold against my hip, heavy with consequence. Then, I'd stood, smoothed my apron, and walked back into the dining room like I hadn't just armed myself with a disassembled sniper rifle. That was 20 minutes ago. Now, I stood at the bar, watching the clock tick toward 7, watching the chef at the sushi station prepare the toro presentation, watching Kang Jae-sung sit in perfect stillness, while death assembled itself in the shadows around him. The man at table 7, the shooter, was obvious now that I knew what to look for. Mid-40s, average build, wearing a server's uniform that fit just slightly wrong. He'd been working the section for the past 15 minutes, moving between tables with the wrong rhythm, the wrong body language. Real servers moved with efficiency born of muscle memory. This man moved with purpose, with focus, like he was measuring distances and angles. His eyes kept flicking to Kang Jae-sung. To the windows, to the server station where the rifle should have been. Any minute now. He was going to check. He was going to reach under that cabinet and find nothing. And then he was going to start looking for who'd taken it. I had to move. Had to get to Jae-sung before the shooter realized the weapon was gone and improvised something worse. But I couldn't just walk up to his table. His security, 3 men positioned strategically around the restaurant, trying and failing to look like normal diners, would intercept me. They'd see the bulge in my apron, the fear in my eyes, and they'd assume threat instead of warning. I needed a reason, something that would get me close enough to speak without raising alarms. My eyes landed on his whiskey glass. Nearly empty. Perfect. I grabbed a fresh bottle of hibiki from the bar, ignored the bartender's questioning look. Jae-sung's drinks were always poured by the head sommelier, never by floor staff, and started walking. Each step felt like moving through water. The rifle components in my apron pressed against my hip, cold and damning. If security stopped me, if they searched me, I'd have no explanation that wouldn't sound like conspiracy. But they didn't stop me. They watched 3 sets of eyes tracking my movement with predatory focus, but they didn't move. Just a waitress bringing whiskey. Nothing threatening about that. I reached his table. Up close, Kang Jae-sung was even more intimidating. His eyes lifted to mine, and I felt the full weight of his attention like a physical pressure. This was a man who saw everything, calculated everything, forgot nothing. "Your whiskey, Mr. Kang." My voice came out steady. Professional. Gave away nothing of the terror singing through my blood. I didn't order another. His English was perfect, barely accented, his voice low and controlled. Compliments of the house. I was already reaching for his glass. My movements slow and deliberate so his security wouldn't interpret them as aggression. As I leaned forward to pour, I dropped my voice to barely a whisper. "There's a gun in my apron. I took it from the man at table 7. He was going to kill you at 7 o'clock. Jae-sung went absolutely still. Not the stillness of before this was different. This was a predator recognizing danger, every muscle coiling in preparation for violence or flight. His eyes held mine, searching, calculating, deciding in real time whether I was telling the truth or delivering a threat. "If this is a trick," he said softly, his voice carrying a promise of violence, "you won't live long enough to regret it." "It's not a trick." My hands were shaking now, but I kept pouring. Had to maintain appearances. Had to look normal to the shooter, to security, to the other diners. I overheard them planning it. The rifle was taped under the server station. I didn't know what else to do. His jaw tightened. Behind me, I could feel the shooter's attention like heat against my spine. Any second now, he'd check the hiding spot. Any second now, this would all explode. "What's your name?" Jae-sung asked. "Amara. Amara Baptiste." He reached into his jacket, a movement that made his security tense visibly, and pulled out his phone. Typed something with his thumb, one-handed, while his eyes never left mine. "In approximately 15 seconds, he said quietly, "everyone in this restaurant is going to hit the floor. When they do, you're going to stay next to me. Don't run. Don't scream. Don't move unless I tell you to. Understand?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Good." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. "You did well, Amara Baptiste." Most people would have looked away. Before I could respond, before I could process the fact that he'd just praised me for potentially saving his life, the lights went out. Not a flicker, not a gradual dimming, just darkness, complete and absolute. The restaurant erupted into chaos. Screams, chairs scraping, the sound of breaking glass as someone knocked over a wine bottle. Then gunshots. 3 of them, rapid succession, the muzzle flash painting the dining room in strobing white light. I felt Jae-sung's hand close around my wrist, strong, calloused, pulling me down. We hit the floor together, his body covering mine, shielding me from the direction of the shots. "Stay down," he commanded against my ear. More gunshots. Return fire from his security team. I pressed my face against the marble floor, hands over my head, the rifle components in my apron digging into my ribs. It lasted maybe 30 seconds. Felt like hours. Then silence. Absolute. Suffocating. The emergency lighting kicked in dim red bulbs that turned everything into a horror movie. I lifted my head slowly, carefully. Bodies. 3 of them. The fake server from table 7, sprawled near the sushi bar, weapon in hand. Not a rifle, but a handgun, improvised when his primary weapon went missing. And 2 others. Men I didn't recognize. Both wearing kitchen uniforms. Jae-sung's security team moved through the space with military precision, checking bodies, securing weapons, establishing a perimeter. Other diners were screaming, crying, scrambling for exits, and Kang Jae-sung stood slowly, his suit somehow still perfect despite having just been in a firefight, and offered me his hand. "Come with me," he said. It wasn't a request. I took his hand. The rifle was still in my apron. My ears were ringing from the gunshots. My whole body trembled with adrenaline crash. "Where?" I started. "Somewhere safe." He pulled me toward a service exit, his security forming a protective circle around us. "You just saved my life, Amara Baptiste. That means you're mine to protect now, whether you like it or not." The Mercedes smelled like leather and gun oil and something else, cedar, maybe, or the particular scent of expensive cologne applied hours ago and now faded to a ghost. I sat in the back seat, Jae-sung beside me, his security team in the vehicle ahead and behind, a convoy of black SUVs cutting through Chicago's late-night traffic with the confidence of people who'd never been told no. My hands had finally stopped shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind a hollow exhaustion that made my bones feel like they were made of paper. The rifle components sat between us on the leather seat. I'd handed them over wordlessly when we'd climbed into the car, and Jae-sung had examined them with the clinical detachment of someone who knew weapons the way other people knew wine. Modified Barrett M82, he'd said, turning a piece over in his hands. Chambered for 50 BMG. This would have punched through the window like it was tissue paper. His dark eyes had found mine. You saved my life. Now, 15 minutes later, we drove in silence. I watched the city blur past the loop giving way to River North, then heading north toward the lake. Familiar streets became unfamiliar. Then became the kind of neighborhoods where real estate started at 7 figures and privacy was the most expensive commodity. Where are we going? I finally asked. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, thin, uncertain. My home. Jae-sung was looking at his phone, scrolling through what appeared to be security footage. Until I determine who compromised my organization. You're safer with me. I have a grandmother. She's in a nursing home on the south side. She'll worry if I don't. Already handled. He didn't look up from his phone. I've had a security detail assigned to her facility. She'll be told you're working a double shift and your phone died. She'll be safe, comfortable, and completely unaware that anything unusual has happened. The casual efficiency with which he'd arranged my life made something cold coil in my stomach. You can't just... I can. Now he did look at me, and the weight of his gaze was like a physical pressure. You involved yourself in my world tonight, Amara. Intentionally or not, you're part of it now. The men who tried to kill me, they're dead, but whoever sent them isn't, and they're going to want to know how their plan failed. He leaned forward slightly, his intensity making the spacious car feel suddenly claustrophobic. You were seen talking to me. You were seen leaving with me. By morning, everyone in Chicago's underworld will know that Kang Jae-sung's life was saved by a waitress from the Azure Lotus. They'll want to know what you saw, what you heard, whether you're a threat or an asset. I don't know anything, I protested. I just overheard. You know more than you think. He gestured to the rifle components. You knew where to look. You knew what you were looking for. You knew the exact timing of the attack. His eyes narrowed. What else did you hear? I closed my eyes, trying to replay the conversation in the service corridor. 2 voices. The shooter, he had a Chicago accent. Flat. Local. The other one was different. Softer. Almost. Educated. Like he was used to giving orders but trying to sound casual. What did they say? Exactly. The shooter said the rifle was rated for 9mm. Maybe. 45. That the bulletproof windows wouldn't stop what he was carrying. I opened my eyes, meeting his gaze. He said he'd planted it during the produce delivery this morning, which means someone in my organization told him when deliveries happen, told him how to access the restaurant, gave him the layout, the timing, the precise location of my table. Jae-sung's jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath the skin. An inside job. The car slowed, turning into an underground garage. The building above was all glass and steel, a modern tower that scraped the sky, the kind of place where doormen wore better suits than most executives. This is home? I asked, staring up through the car window at the underside of luxury condominiums. One of them. He exited the vehicle with fluid grace, then waited for me to follow. I maintain several properties. This one has the best security. His security team flanked us as we walked to a private elevator, one that required both a key card and a fingerprint scan to activate. The ride up was silent, my ears popping as we climbed. 40 floors, 50. The numbers on the display kept rising. We stopped at 63. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse, not a hallway, not a foyer, just straight into a living space that was more art installation than home. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 3 sides overlooked Lake Michigan and the city. The view so expansive it made me dizzy. The furniture was minimal, all clean lines and muted colors, grays and blacks and the occasional slash of white. Everything looked expensive and untouched, like a hotel room waiting for guests who never arrived. You'll stay in the East Wing, Jae-sung said, moving through the space with the ease of someone who'd stopped noticing his surroundings years ago. There's a bedroom, bathroom, closet with clothes in various sizes. My assistant maintains a wardrobe for guests. The way he said guests made it clear he meant something else. I didn't ask. One of his security team, a broad-shouldered man with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, appeared with my server's apron, the one that had held the rifle. Sir, we found these in her pockets. He handed Jae-sung my phone, my keys, my ID, My tips from tonight, $147 in small bills, carefully folded. Jae-sung examined my driver's license, his expression unreadable. Amara Jean Baptiste, 26, Southside address. He looked up. You live alone? With my grandmother. But she's been in the nursing home for 8 months. Alzheimer's. The words came out mechanical, defensive. I visit every day after my shift. Not tonight. He pocketed my phone. Until I clear the threat, you stay here. No calls, no contact with anyone outside. If you need to speak to your grandmother, I'll arrange a supervised visit. Anger flared hot in my chest. You can't just kidnap me. I'm not kidnapping you. I'm protecting you. His tone was infuriatingly calm. The people who tried to kill me tonight, they're professionals. Organized. Well-funded. If they think you're a loose end, they won't hesitate to tie you off permanently. He gestured to the windows, the view, the luxury surrounding us. You can hate me for this. You can be angry, but you'll be alive. That's what matters. What I matter is my grandmother. We'll be fine. He pulled out his own phone, typed something, then showed me the screen. Security camera footage of my grandmother's nursing home room. She was asleep, peaceful, unaware. A man in a dark suit sat in a chair by her door, reading. 24-hour protection. Best medical care. Anything she needs. The efficiency of it, the casual display of power, the way he'd simply arranged my life like moving pieces on a chessboard should have terrified me, should have made me scream, fight, demand my freedom. Instead, I found myself asking, "Who are you? Really?" Jae-sung smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. You know who I am, Amara. You've known since the first time you served me at the Azure Lotus. You've seen the security, the deference, the way people clear space when I enter a room. He moved closer, stopping just inside my personal space. What you're really asking is, what am I capable of? I held my ground, even though every instinct screamed to step back. Yes, anything. The word was soft, almost gentle. I'm capable of anything to protect what's mine. And as of tonight, whether you like it or not, you're mine to protect. I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. No? He reached out, his fingers brushing my jaw with unexpected gentleness. Then why did you take that rifle? Why didn't you just walk away and let nature take its course? I didn't have an answer. Not one that made sense. Not one that didn't make me sound like a fool who'd just thrown her life away for a stranger. His thumb traced my cheekbone, the touch sending shivers down my spine despite my anger. You saved me because you couldn't help yourself. Because looking away would have been worse than the risk. That kind of courage. He paused, his eyes searching mine. That's rare, precious, worth protecting. Or dangerous, I whispered. That too. He stepped back, the sudden absence of his touch like cold water. Get some sleep, Amara. Tomorrow we figure out who wants me dead and why. Tonight, you're safe. He turned toward his own wing of the penthouse, his security team melting into the shadows. Jae-sung, I called after him. He stopped, looked back. Thank you. For my grandmother. For keeping her safe. His expression softened fractionally. I protect what's mine, he said again. Then, quieter. Sleep well. I stood alone in that vast, empty living room for a long time after he left, watching the city lights sparkle 63 floors below, and wondering what the hell I'd just gotten myself into. The bedroom was larger than my entire apartment on the south side. King bed with silk sheets in charcoal gray, sitting area with a view of the lake, bathroom with a soaking tub, and a shower that had more jets than seemed strictly necessary. The closet was indeed full of clothes, everything from casual wear to formal dresses, all in a range of sizes, all with the tags still attached. I showered until the water ran cold, washing away the scent of gunpowder and fear, and the Azure Lotus's signature bergamot air freshener. Then I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. My grandmother's eyes stared back at me dark brown, almost black, framed by lashes she'd always called wasted on a girl who refuses to wear makeup. My skin was deep umber, darker than hers, a gift from my father's Nigerian heritage. My hair, natural and currently tied back in a sensible bun for work, had started to escape its pins during the chaos, curls springing free around my face. I looked the same, but everything had changed. 24 hours ago, I'd been nobody. A waitress working doubles to pay medical bills, existing in the narrow space between exhaustion and responsibility. My biggest concerns had been whether I could pick up extra shifts, whether my grandmother's medication was working, whether I'd ever save enough to go back to school. Now I was standing in a penthouse apartment that probably cost more per month than I made in a year, under the protection of a man whose name made other men lower their voices, wearing borrowed silk pajamas that felt like water against my skin. I should have been terrified. Should have been plotting escape. Should have been demanding my phone back. Should have been doing anything except what I was actually doing, which was thinking about the way Jae-sung's hand had felt against my jaw. The way his eyes had searched mine like I was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. The way he'd said, "You're mine to protect," like it was both a threat and a promise. I climbed into bed, pulled the silk sheets up to my chin, and stared at the ceiling. Sleep came eventually, restless and full of dreams where gunshots mixed with the sound of breaking glass, where hands that could kill held me with impossible gentleness, where I ran through endless corridors searching for a rifle I'd already found. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. For a disoriented moment, I thought I was still dreaming. Then memory crashed back the restaurant, the gun, the convoy of SUVs carrying me away from my life. I found clothes laid out on the sitting area, chair jeans that looked like they'd fit perfectly, a soft cashmere sweater in deep gray, undergarments still in their packaging. Everything exactly my size. Either Jae-sung had an excellent eye for measurements, or his assistant was disturbingly thorough. Dressed, I followed the coffee scent through the penthouse. Morning light transformed the space, making it less austere and more livable. The harsh edges of last night softened into clean lines and intentional design. Jae-sung sat at the dining table, a massive slab of black walnut that could easily seat 12 reading something on an iPad. He'd changed into casual clothes, dark jeans, and a black Henley that made him look younger, less intimidating. His hair was slightly damp, suggesting a recent shower. He looked up when I entered, his gaze traveling over me with an intensity that made me hyper-aware of every borrowed piece of clothing. "Good morning," he said. "Coffee? Please." He gestured to a French press and a mug waiting on the table. Everything set out with the same careful efficiency he seemed to apply to every aspect of his life. I poured, sat across from him, and wrapped my hands around the mug. The warmth felt grounding, real. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "Some." I took a sip. The coffee was perfect, dark, complex. Probably cost more per pound than my hourly wage. "You?" "Some." A ghost of a smile. "I don't sleep much. Occupational hazard. Being a..." I paused, suddenly unsure what word to use. "Criminal? Gangster? Businessman with extremely violent hobbies? Crime lord?" He supplied the term with amusement. "You can say it. We both know what I am." I was going to say someone people want to kill. That too. He set down the iPad. "I've been reviewing the security footage from the Azure Lotus. The 3 men who tried to kill me, they were all Korean. All members of the Baek family organization. My grandmother had taught me enough about Chicago's underworld knowledge absorbed through decades of working service jobs, cleaning buildings, overhearing things not meant for her ears to recognize that name. The Baeks controlled gambling and loan sharking on the north side. Old money, old grudges, old violence. "I thought the Korean families had a truce," I said carefully. "We did. For 3 years." Jae-sung's expression hardened. "Which means last night wasn't just an assassination attempt. It was a declaration of war." He pulled up something on the iPad, turned it so I could see. Surveillance photos, the 3 dead men from the restaurant, their faces captured in life before chaos. "Do you recognize any of them?" I studied the images carefully. 2 were complete strangers, but the third, the fake server, the one who'd hidden the rifle, there was something familiar about his face. Not someone I knew personally, but the produce delivery, I said slowly. "This morning at the Azure Lotus. I saw him. He was wearing a vendor's uniform, carrying boxes of vegetables. I remember because he smiled at me, and it felt wrong. Like he was trying too hard to seem harmless." Jae-sung's eyes sharpened. "What time? Maybe 9? I'd just arrived for my shift. The kitchen was receiving deliveries." He typed rapidly, pulled up more footage this time from the restaurant's loading dock, and there he was, the fake server, carrying boxes marked with a Korean grocery supplier's logo, chatting casually with the kitchen manager. "This is good," Jae-sung murmured. "Very good. If he was there during the morning delivery, it means someone gave him legitimate vendor credentials," I finished. "Someone with access to your security protocols." "Exactly. He looked at me with something that might have been respect. You're smart, Amara Baptiste. Observant. Most people see without noticing. You notice. The compliment made something warm unfold in my chest. I pushed it down, focused on the problem. So who had access? That's the question. He stood, paced to the windows. The morning sun turned his profile into something carved from light and shadow. My organization has maybe 200 people, but only a dozen would have the clearance to arrange vendor access to the Azure Lotus. Someone close to you. Someone I trust. The bitterness in his voice was palpable, which makes this personal, not just business. I stood too, moved to join him at the windows. This high up, Chicago looked like a toy city. Tiny cars and tiny people living tiny lives, completely unaware that wars were being fought in the shadows above them. What happens now? I asked. Now I find the traitor, and I make an example of them. He said it with the same casual tone someone might use to discuss grocery shopping. But first, I need to keep you safe. I'm not your responsibility. You are. He turned to face me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle, cedar and bergamot in him. The moment you took that rifle, you became part of this. Like it or not, Amara, you're in my world now. And in my world, I protect what's mine. I'm not. I started to protest again, but he raised a hand, silencing me. Let me show you something. He led me to his office, a room I hadn't seen last night. All dark wood and leather and walls lined with books in Korean and English. He pulled up security footage on a massive monitor. The Azure Lotus, just after we'd left. Cops swarming, EMTs loading bodies. And then, a man, Korean, mid-50s, expensive suit, surveying the scene with the authority of someone who owned it. He spoke to the police with casual familiarity, gesturing as he explained what had happened. Do you know who that is? Jae-sung asked. I shook my head. Baek Min-ho, head of the Baek family, and my father's oldest enemy. Jae-sung's jaw tightened. He's telling the police that last night was a tragic incident, wrong place, wrong time, no connection to organized crime. Just 3 criminals with personal grudges who happened to attack during dinner service. And they're believing him? He owns half the police department. Of course they're believing him. Jae-sung pulled up another angle. But here, watch this. The footage showed Baek Min-ho speaking with someone else. A woman, elegant, Korean, maybe early 30s. She handed him something, a phone, maybe, or a small device. He examined it, nodded, then said something that made her smile. Jae-sung froze the frame. That's Baek Ji-won, his daughter, and the next head of the Baek family. He zoomed in on what she'd handed her father. Not a phone, a server's apron. My server's apron, the one I'd been wearing when I took the rifle. My blood went cold. They know, I whispered. They know I took the gun. Yes. Jae-sung's voice was soft, almost gentle. Which is why, as of this moment, you're the most dangerous person in Chicago to the Baek family. You're evidence, proof that their attack failed, and they can't afford to let you testify about what you heard, what you saw. He turned to me, his expression serious. I can protect you, Amara. I will protect you. But you need to understand there's no going back to your old life. Not now. Maybe not ever. The weight of it crashed over me. My apartment. My job. My carefully constructed routine of work and grandmother visits and slow savings toward a future that had always seemed just out of reach. Gone. All of it. Because I'd made a choice in a service corridor. Because I couldn't look away. My grandmother, I said, my voice cracking. She's all I have. If they go after her, they won't get close. Jae-sung's hand found my shoulder, warm and grounding. I've already moved her to a private facility. Better care, private room, 24-hour security. She'll think it's a hospital transfer for specialized treatment. She'll be safe, comfortable, and completely out of the Baek's reach. You can't just... I already did. His hand squeezed gently. This is what I do, Amara. I protect my people. And you're my people now. I don't want to be your people, I protested, even as part of me a traitoress. Tired part whispered that this might be better. That protection sounded better than the constant stress of bills and double shifts, and watching my grandmother slowly forget who I was. Too late. But there was no malice in his voice. Just certainty. Like he'd made a decision and the universe would simply have to accommodate it. The question isn't whether you're under my protection. The question is what you do with it. I pulled away from his touch, Needed space to think. What does that mean? It means you have a choice. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed. Option 1. You stay here, safe, provided for, completely removed from the war that's coming. I'll handle the bakes, eliminate the threat, and when it's done, I'll give you a new identity and enough money to start over anywhere you want. And option 2? His eyes held mine. You help me. You're smart, observant, you notice things my people miss. You can move in spaces I can't, you're invisible in ways I'll never be. A waitress, a civilian, someone no one sees as a threat. You want me to spy for you. I want you to be my eyes in places where my eyes can't reach. He pushed off the desk, moved closer. The bakes will be looking for you, but they'll be looking for a scared waitress in hiding. They won't be looking for someone actively working against them. It was insane. Dangerous. Exactly the kind of thing that would get me killed. And yet, if I help you, I said slowly, you keep my grandmother safe? Better than safe, you make sure she has everything she needs? Yes. And when it's over, I walk away? Clean break, new life, no strings? If that's what you want. Something flickered in his expression. Though I hope you'll reconsider. I studied him, this man who'd gone from stranger to protector in the space of 12 hours, who looked at me like I was valuable instead of invisible, who'd casually rearranged my life and my grandmother's care with the kind of power I'd never had access to. My grandmother had taught me, you see something wrong, you stand up. Last night, I'd seen something wrong and I'd stood up. Consequences be damned. Why stop now? Okay, I said. I'll help, but on one condition. Name it. You teach me how to protect myself. If I'm walking into danger for you, I'm not doing it helpless. For the first time since I'd met him, Kang Jae-sung smiled. Really smiled. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost vulnerable. Deal, he said. Then he offered his hand. I took it. His grip was firm, calloused, warm. The handshake of equals making a bargain. Neither of us let go right away. The contact lingered, his thumb brushing against my wrist, finding my pulse point where my heart hammered. You're afraid, he observed softly. Terrified, I admitted. Good. His smile widened fractionally. Fear keeps you sharp. It's courage that makes you dangerous. And what am I? Courageous or dangerous? Both. He released my hand, but the absence of his touch felt like a loss. That's why you're going to survive this, Amara Baptiste. That's why we're both going to survive this. The training room was in the sub-basement, 3 floors below the parking garage, accessible only by a private elevator that required biometric authentication. It looked like a luxury gym crossed with an armory weight equipment, mats for sparring, and an entire wall of weapons locked behind glass. Jae-sung had changed into workout clothes, black athletic pants, and a fitted shirt that revealed the lean muscle of someone who stayed dangerous through discipline rather than bulk. I wore borrowed athletic wear leggings and a tank top that fit like they'd been made for me. First lesson, he said, moving to the center of the mat. Awareness. Most people go through life half asleep. They don't notice threats until it's too late. I noticed the assassination attempt, I pointed out. Because you were paying attention. But were you aware of me? I blinked. What? When you served me at the Azure Lotus, all 7 times. What did you notice? I thought back. You always ordered the same thing. Omakase and hibiki neat. You sat with your back to the windows. You never looked at your phone during the meal. What hand do I use? I paused, tried to remember. Right? No, left. I'm not sure. Both. He held up his hands. Ambidextrous. I trained myself because relying on one dominant hand creates a predictable pattern. Predictable patterns get you killed. He moved behind me, his presence close enough that I could feel his body heat. Close your eyes. I hesitated. Trust me, he said softly. I closed my eyes. Now tell me, without looking, how many exits are in this room? I'd noticed the main entrance we'd come through, but 1, 3. Door we entered, emergency exit behind you to the right, and a panic room concealed in the north wall. When danger comes, you need to know your escapes before you need them. His hands settled on my shoulders, firm, grounding. In my world, the people who survive aren't the strongest. They're the most aware, the ones who see threats coming before anyone else does. Is that how you survived last night? I asked, my eyes still closed. Awareness? That and you. His breath stirred my hair. You saved my life, Amara. Don't think I've forgotten. You keep saying that. Like it created some kind of debt. Not debt. His hand slid down my arms to my wrists. Connection. In Korean culture, when someone saves your life, you become responsible for theirs. It's called inyon, fate intertwined. He guided my hands up into a defensive position. If someone attacks from behind like this, you don't pull away. You step back into them, use their momentum against them. He demonstrated in slow motion, his body pressing against mine as he showed me how to drop my weight, how to rotate, how to use an attacker's strength as leverage. Try it, he said, releasing me and stepping back. I tried, failed spectacularly, stumbling over my own feet. Jae-sung caught me before I fell, his arms wrapping around my waist, steadying me. We stood like that for a moment, my back against his chest, his arms holding me upright, both of us breathing harder than the exercise warranted. Again, he said, his voice rougher than before. We practiced for an hour. Then 2. He taught me how to break holds, how to strike vulnerable points, how to create space when someone got too close. He was patient, methodical, correcting my form with touches that were professional but sent electricity skating across my skin. Better, he said as I successfully executed a wrist release for the 3rd time in a row. You're a quick study. I'm motivated. I wiped sweat from my forehead. The bakes want me dead. That's pretty good motivation. His expression darkened. They won't get close enough to try. You can't protect me 24/7. Watch me. The intensity in his voice made me look up. Really look at him. His face was flushed from exertion, his hair damp with sweat, his eyes burning with something that went beyond professional concern. Why? I asked. Why do you care so much? I'm nobody. Just a waitress who happened to be in the right place at the right time. You're not nobody. He moved closer, stopping just inside my personal space. You're brave. You're smart. You notice things no one else does. And you saved my life when you could have walked away. His hand came up, fingers brushing a bead of sweat from my temple. In my entire life, Amara, maybe 3 people have ever looked at me and seen something worth protecting. You're one of them. The confession hung between us, vulnerable and raw. I don't know what you see, I whispered. Everyone else looks at you and sees power, danger, someone to fear. And you? I thought about it. Really thought. I see someone lonely. Someone who's built walls so high that nobody can reach them. Someone who's forgotten how to be anything except what everyone expects. His jaw tightened. For a moment I thought he'd pull away, retreat behind the cold mask he usually wore. Instead, he cupped my face in both hands. You see too much, he murmured. Then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle, wasn't tentative. It was claiming, his mouth crashing against mine with the same intensity he brought to everything else. I gasped against his lips and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until my knees went weak, and the only thing keeping me upright was his hands holding me steady. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. This is a bad idea, I managed. Terrible idea, he agreed. You're my I don't even know what you are. My protector, my employer, yours. The word was simple, absolute. I'm yours, Amara. If you want me. I should have said no. Should have remembered the power imbalance, the danger, the absolute insanity of kissing a crime lord in his private training facility while people actively tried to kill us both. Instead, I pulled him back down and kissed him again. This time was slower, deeper, more deliberate. His hands mapped my body with reverent precision, tracing my shoulders, my waist, my hips, like he was memorizing the geography of me. I did the same, feeling the hard muscle beneath his shirt, the scars that spoke of violence survived, the rapid thunder of his heartbeat that proved he was just as affected as I was. Amara, he murmured against my mouth. If we do this, I know. I did know. Knew it was complicated and dangerous and probably a mistake. I don't care. You should care. I'm not a good man. I've done things. Terrible things. I know that too. I pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. I'm not asking you to be good, Jae-sung. I'm just asking you to be honest. I can do that. His thumb brushed my lower lip. Honest? I want you. Have wanted you since the 3rd time you served me at the Azure Lotus. You looked at me like I was just another customer. Not a monster to fear or a prize to win. Just a person. You are just a person. I'm really not. But he smiled as he said it. But with you, I want to be. The moment stretched between us, heavy with possibility and danger and want. Then his phone buzzed. Once, twice, insistent. He pulled it out, read the screen, and his expression transformed from open to closed in an instant. We need to go upstairs. Now. What happened? The Bakes just made their move, and your grandmother is in the crossfire. The security footage showed everything in grainy black and white horror. My grandmother's new facility, the private care home Jae-sung had arranged surrounded by vehicles. Men in dark clothes breaching the entrance. Jae-sung's security team engaging them in the lobby. Gunfire turning the elegant foyer into a war zone. And my grandmother being wheeled from her room by a nurse I didn't recognize, moving toward a service exit while chaos erupted around her. They're taking her, I whispered, my hands gripping the edge of Jae-sung's desk so hard my knuckles went white. They're taking her and your people can't stop them. My people are trying not to create a bloodbath in a facility full of elderly patients, Jae-sung said tightly. He was on 2 phones simultaneously, barking orders in Korean while pulling up additional camera angles. But you're right. They're going to extract her before we can establish a perimeter. I watched the nurse, the fake nurse, obviously working for the Bakes wheel my grandmother toward a white van. My grandmother looked confused, frightened, her hands clutching the blanket on her lap. Something in my chest cracked open. Rage, hot and pure and clarifying. Give me a gun, I said. Jae-sung looked up from his phones. What? You heard me. Give me a gun. I'm going after her. Amara, no. That's exactly what they want. They take your grandmother to draw you out, to make you do something stupid. I don't care what they want. I moved to the weapons cabinet, the one I'd seen earlier in the training room. That's my grandmother, the only family I have. I'm not leaving her with them. You'll die. He crossed the room in 3 strides, his hands on my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. You've had 1 day of training. They're professionals. You walk into that situation and you're dead within minutes. Then come with me. I held his gaze. You keep saying you protect what's yours. Prove it. Help me get her back. I am helping. I have 20 men converging on that location. Tactical teams. Experienced fighters who actually know what they're. Will they get there in time? I challenged. Before the van drives away? Before they take her somewhere your cameras can't see? Somewhere your men can't find? His jaw clenched. He knew I was right. There's another way, he said finally. A smarter way. He pulled up a map on his tablet, showing the facility and surrounding streets. They'll take her to a secondary location. Somewhere secure where they can use her as leverage. My bet is the Bake family warehouse in Pilsen. It's close, defensible, and it's where they handle their problematic situations. So we go there. Not we. Me and my team. You stay here where you're. No. I pulled out of his grip. I'm not sitting in this penthouse while my grandmother is terrified and alone. I'm going, with or without you. You don't even know where the warehouse is. Then I guess you'd better come with me. Because I'm leaving in 5 minutes, and I'd really prefer not to die stupid. We stared at each other. His expression was a war between fury and something that looked disturbingly like pride. You're going to get yourself killed, he said. Probably, but I'm going to try anyway. And nothing I say will stop you? Nothing. He exhaled sharply, ran a hand through his hair. Fine, but we do this my way. My rules. You follow my orders exactly, or I'll have my men physically restrain you and lock you in the panic room. Understand? Understood. Good. He was already moving, pulling weapons from the cabinet. Because if you die saving your grandmother, Amara Baptiste, I will personally drag you back from whatever afterlife you end up in and kill you myself. Despite everything, the fear, the rage, the absolute terror of what we were about to do, I almost smiled. Deal, I said. He handed me a compact pistol, smaller than the one from the training session. This is a Glock 19. 15 rounds. Point and shoot. The safety is here, he showed me. Keep it on until you're ready to fire. And for God's sake, don't shoot unless you absolutely have to. I took the weapon, felt its weight settle in my palm. Heavier than I expected. More real. I've never shot anyone, I said quietly. Let's hope tonight doesn't change that. He checked his own weapons, 2 handguns, something larger in a shoulder holster, knives I didn't want to think about. But if it comes down to their life or yours, choose yours. Every time. We took the private elevator down to the garage. Jae-sung's security team was already assembled 6 men, armed, wearing tactical gear that made them look like a small military unit. "Sir," one of them said, the scarred man from earlier, "this is a bad idea. Let us handle extraction. You don't need to." "She's going," Jae-sung said flatly, "which means I'm going. So either you come with us, or you stay here and update the contingency plans for when I don't come back." The man's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." We piled into 2 SUVs. I sat in the back of the lead vehicle with Jae-sung, his security team distributed between the 2 cars. The drive to Pilsen felt surreal, the normal city passing by outside the windows while inside we loaded weapons and discussed extraction protocols like we were planning a dinner party instead of a raid. "The warehouse has 3 entrances," Jae-sung explained, pulling up blueprints on his tablet. "Front-loading dock, side service door, roof access. I'll take 4 men in through the loading dock, loud, obvious, drawing their attention. You and Min-soo," he gestured to the scarred security guard. "We'll go in through the service entrance." Kieter, less defended. "And do what?" I asked. "Find your grandmother. Get her out. Don't engage unless you absolutely have to." "And you?" His smile was cold. "I'll be keeping them busy." We pulled up 2 blocks from the warehouse. The building was exactly what I'd expected. Industrial, abandoned-looking, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry and no one would ask questions. Min-soo handed me a radio earpiece. "Channel 3, don't talk unless you have to. Listen for Mr. Kang's orders." I fitted it in my ear, tested the connection. Jae-sung's voice came through, clear and close despite him being in the other vehicle. "Can you hear me?" "Yes." "Good. Remember, you follow Min-soo's lead. You don't take risks. And if something goes wrong, you run. Don't look back, just run. I'm not leaving without my grandmother." "Amara, I mean it, Jae-sung. I didn't come this far to run away." A long pause. Then, "I know. That's why I'm terrified you're going to do something brave and stupid and get yourself killed. Then I guess you'd better make sure that doesn't happen." Through the earpiece, I heard him exhale frustration and affection in equal measure. "Stay close to Min-soo." "And Amara?" "Yes. Come back to me." The way he said it, raw, vulnerable, stripped of the careful control he usually maintained, made my chest ache. "I will," I promised. Min-soo and I moved through the shadows toward the service entrance, while Jae-sung and his team approached the front. The warehouse loomed above us, all rust and broken windows, and the particular decay of a building that had outlived its purpose. We waited in the darkness, weapons drawn, listening. Then, from the front of the building, gunfire erupted. "Go," Min-soo whispered. We moved. The service door was locked but not reinforced. Min-soo picked it in seconds, and we slipped inside into darkness that smelled like oil and old metal and fear. Voices echoed from deeper in the warehouse Korean, shouting, the sounds of combat. Jae-sung's distraction was working. We moved through the maze of corridors, Min-soo leading with hand signals I barely understood but followed anyway. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears, louder than the gunfire, louder than anything. Then I heard her. My grandmother's voice, speaking in Jamaican patois, confused and frightened. "Where am I? I want to go home. Please, I want to go home." "Grandmother," I breathed into the radio. "Where?" Jae-sung's voice crackled back, strain evident beneath the calm. "East corridor, maybe 50 feet ahead. I'm sending 2 men to back you up. Wait for them before you." But I was already moving. Min-soo swore behind me, scrambling to keep up. I rounded the corner, and there she was, my grandmother, tied to a chair in the center of a storage room, still in her nightgown, looking small and fragile and so much older than I remembered. And standing beside her, gun pointed casually at her head, was a woman I recognized from Jae-sung's security footage, Baek Ji-won, the Baek family's daughter and heir. "Hello, Amara," she said in perfect, unaccented English. "I was wondering when you'd show up." I raised my gun, hands shaking, finger on the trigger. "Let her go." "Or what? You'll shoot me?" Ji-won smiled. "Please. You've never fired a gun, outside of a training range. I can see it in your eyes, you're terrified, shaking. One wrong move and you'll miss. And I'll put a bullet through your grandmother's skull before you can correct your aim." "Amara?" My grandmother's voice was small, confused. "Is that you, baby?" "It's me, Grandma. Everything's going to be okay." "Don't lie to her," Ji-won said. "Nothing is going to be okay. You cost my family a very expensive operation. 3 men dead. Kang Jae-sung still breathing." And now we have to start over, rebuild, find another way to kill a man who's suddenly on high alert. She tilted her head, studying me. But you know what? You've given us something better. Leverage. Kang seems to care about you. God knows why you're nobody. But he's mobilized his entire organization to extract your grandmother, which means you matter to him. He's using me, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He's protecting me because I'm a witness. That's all. Liar. Ji-won's smile widened. I've seen the security footage from his penthouse. The way he looks at you, the way he touches you. That's not protection, that's possession. And in our world, Amara, the things we possess are the things that can destroy us. She pressed the gun barrel against my grandmother's temple. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to put down your weapon. You're going to call off Kang's attack. And you're going to let me walk out of here with both of you. If you do that, your grandmother lives. If you don't, the shot came from behind me. Min-soo, firing with professional precision. The bullet took Ji-won in the shoulder, spinning her away from my grandmother. Her gun clattered to the floor. I didn't think. I just moved, diving forward, grabbing my grandmother's chair, wheeling her toward the exit while Min-soo provided covering fire. More gunshots. Return fire from Baek soldiers I hadn't seen, hidden in the shadows. Min-soo went down, clutching his leg, shouting for me to run. I ran, pushed my grandmother's wheelchair through corridors that all looked the same, following the sound of Jae-sung's voice in my earpiece, giving directions, telling me where to turn, where to avoid, his voice the only anchor in chaos. Behind me, footsteps, fast, gaining. I rounded a corner, and there was Jae-sung, materializing from the darkness like salvation, wearing tactical gear. His eyes found mine, relief and fury warring in his expression. Behind me, I gasped. There. He moved past me, putting himself between us and the pursuit. More gunfire. He returned it with cold precision, dropping 2 Baek soldiers before they could round the corner. Go, he commanded. Exit is straight ahead. My men are waiting. What about you? I'll be right behind you. Go. I went, pushed my grandmother's wheelchair toward the light of the loading dock exit, toward the waiting SUVs, toward safety. We made it outside. Jae-sung's security team converged, creating a protective circle, loading my grandmother into a vehicle with gentle efficiency. You're safe, Grandma, I told her, holding her hand. You're safe now. She looked at me, her eyes clear for just a moment. Amara? What's happening? Nothing. Just taking you somewhere better. Jae-sung emerged from the warehouse, moving fast, blood on his shirt, his or someone else's. I couldn't tell. He climbed into the SUV beside me as we pulled away, tires screaming. Everyone accounted for? He asked into his radio. Yes, sir. Min-soo is hit but stable. We're clear. He exhaled, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. Then he looked at me, and the intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. Are you hurt? No. I'm fine. Grandmother? She's okay. Confused, frightened, but physically unharmed. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking uncontrollably now, adrenaline crash hitting hard. You disobeyed my orders, Jae-sung said softly. I told you to wait for backup. I heard my grandmother. I couldn't. I know. His hand found mine, squeezed. You did well, Amara. You kept your head. You got her out. Min-soo did. He shot Ji-won when I froze. But you moved when it mattered. That's what counts. His thumb traced circles on my palm, grounding me. We're taking your grandmother to my private medical facility. Best doctors. 24-hour care. She'll never be vulnerable again. Thank you. The words felt inadequate for everything he'd done. The protection, the resources, the risk. Don't thank me. His grip tightened. This is my fault. The Baeks went after her because you're important to me. Because I've made it clear that hurting you would hurt me. So what now? His expression hardened. Now we end this, once and for all, continuing with the climax and resolution to reach 16,000 words. The war room in Jae-sung's penthouse was a space I hadn't seen before. All screens and encrypted phones and maps of Chicago marked with territories and allegiances. His key lieutenants filled the room, speaking rapid Korean, while Jae-sung listened with the absolute focus of a general planning a campaign. I sat in the corner, still wearing my borrowed tactical gear, my grandmother's sleeping form visible through the adjacent medical suite where nurses monitored her vitals. She'd been sedated gently, Jae-sung's personal doctor had assured me to help her rest after the trauma. The Bakes will retaliate. One lieutenant was saying, "Tonight was a failure for them. They'll want blood. Let them want," Jae-sung said coldly. "We hit them first. Hard, before they can regroup." "Sir, with respect, that's exactly what they expect. It plays into their strategy." "Then what do you suggest?" Silence. No one had a better plan. I stood, moved to the table where they were gathered. "What if we don't hit them with violence?" Every eye turned to me. I felt the weight of their attention, these men who'd spent decades in the underworld, looking at a waitress with 1 day of training offering strategic advice. "Explain," Jae-sung said. "You said the Bakes have a truce with the other Korean families? That their power depends on maintaining alliances, on looking strong and reliable." I gestured to the map. "What if we make them look weak instead?" "How?" I thought about everything I'd learned serving Chicago's elite at the Azure Lotus. About the whispered conversations, the casual cruelty, the way reputation mattered more than reality in certain circles. Tonight, Ji-won the Bake heir got shot by your security team while threatening an innocent elderly woman, a grandmother with Alzheimer's who has no connection to organized crime. I looked around the table. That's not a tactical operation. That's terrorism. That's the kind of story that turns public opinion, that makes even your enemies uncomfortable. One of the lieutenants frowned. "We're not concerned with public opinion. Maybe you should be," I said. "The other families tolerate violence when it's professional. Business. But targeting civilians? That breaks codes. Makes people wonder who's next." Jae-sung was watching me with calculating intensity. "You want to leak the story. More than that, I want to show them." I turned to the screens showing security footage from the warehouse. "You have cameras everywhere. Show the other families what the Bakes did tonight. Show them Ji-won putting a gun to an elderly woman's head. Make them explain why that was necessary. It undermines their honor," another lieutenant said slowly, understanding dawning. "Makes them look desperate, weak." "Exactly." I met Jae-sung's eyes. "Hit them where it actually hurts their reputation." For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then he smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his face. "Do it," he told his team. "Send the footage to every family in Chicago. Korean, Chinese, Italian, Russian, everyone. Let them see what the Bakes consider acceptable tactics." "Sir." "Now." The lieutenants moved to comply, already pulling up contacts, preparing messages. Within minutes, the footage would be circulating through Chicago's underworld, damning evidence of the Bake family's desperation. Jae-sung moved to my side. "That was brilliant," he said quietly. "How did you know it would work?" "I didn't. Not for sure. But I've spent years being invisible, watching people who think servants don't matter. I've learned how power really works. It's not just violence. It's perception." "You're wasted as a waitress," he said. "Maybe. Or maybe being a waitress taught me things that matter." His hand found my lower back, warm and possessive. "Come with me. There's something I need to show you." He led me to his private office, closed the door behind us. The city sprawled beyond the windows, 63 floors of separation from the normal world. "Tomorrow," he said, "the Bake family will be scrambling to explain tonight. Their allies will be questioning their judgment. The other families will be watching, waiting to see if they're weak enough to challenge. And then I offer them a deal, a way to save face while ending this war." He pulled up something on his computer, a contract, dense with legal language. "The Bakes give up their claims to the territories they've been encroaching on. They pay reparations for tonight's attack. And in exchange, I don't release the full security footage showing Ji-won's face clearly while she threatens your grandmother." "You're giving them an out?" "I'm giving them a choice between losing face or losing everything." His eyes met mine. "Because of you. Because you showed me there's more than one way to win." I moved closer to him, drawn by the intensity in his gaze. "What happens after? When the war is over?" "That depends." His hand came up, cupping my jaw. "On what you want." "What do you want?" "You." The word was simple, absolute. "I want you in my life, Amara. Not as someone I'm protecting. Not as someone who owes me. As my partner. My equal." "I'm not equal to you. You have power, money, an entire organization. And you have something I don't." His thumb brushed my lower lip. "You have the ability to see people. Really see them. You saw me from the first moment, not the monster everyone else fears, but the person underneath." He pulled me closer, until our bodies touched. I've spent my entire life alone, Amara, surrounded by people but fundamentally isolated. And then you walked up to my table with a rifle in your apron and looked at me like I was worth saving. You are worth saving. Most days I'm not sure about that. His forehead rested against mine. But when you look at me like you're looking at me right now, I want to believe it. I kissed him, slow, deliberate, a conscious choice to step forward instead of back. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me flush against him, and this kiss was different from the others, less desperate, more certain. Like we'd both stopped fighting what this was and accepted it. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes held mine. "Stay with me," he said. "Not because you're in danger. Not because I'm protecting your grandmother. Stay because you want to." "What about my old life? What about it?" His hands framed my face. "Your apartment where you worked yourself to exhaustion for barely enough to survive? Your job where you were invisible? That life is gone, Amara. The Bakes made sure of that when they came after your grandmother. He was right. There was no going back. Not now. So what do I do instead?" I asked. "Whatever you want." His smile was soft. "You're brilliant, observant. You think in ways my people don't. Work with me. Help me build something better than what my father left me. I'm not a criminal. Neither am I. Not entirely." He gestured to the city beyond the windows. "My family controls shipping, imports, logistics. Most of it's legitimate business. The violence, the underground operations, that's what we're known for. But it's not all we are. And you think I could help with the legitimate side? I think you could help with all of it. You see patterns, connections. You notice what others miss." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "You saved my life because you paid attention when no one else did. Imagine what you could do if you had real resources. Real power." The offer was tempting. Dangerously so. A life of purpose instead of survival. Of being valued instead of invisible. Of standing beside someone who looked at me like I mattered. But it would also mean accepting his world completely, the violence, the moral ambiguity, the constant danger. "I need time," I said, "to think. To make sure this is what I really want, and not just adrenaline and trauma bonding. Take all the time you need." He kissed my forehead. "But know this, whether you stay or go, your grandmother will be cared for. That's not conditional. That's forever." "Why?" "You barely know us. Because you saved me. And because—" He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Because for the first time in a very long time, when I look at the future, I don't just see obligation and violence. I see possibility. And that possibility looks like you." 3 months later, the new restaurant Azure Phoenix opened on a Thursday night in early spring. The space was stunning. All floor-to-ceiling windows and Korean-influenced design elements. The kind of fusion between East and West that felt intentional rather than forced. I stood in the private dining room, watching through one-way glass, as Chicago's elite filled the main floor below politicians, business leaders, the kind of people who made the city run through connections and capital. "Nervous?" Jae-sung asked, coming up behind me. His arms wrapped around my waist, pulling me back against his chest. "A little," I admitted. "This is a bigger deal than the Azure Lotus. You'll be fine. You've been planning this for months." I had been. The Azure Phoenix was my idea, a legitimate business venture that partnered Jae-sung's shipping and import connections with my hospitality experience. Half restaurant, half cultural center, showcasing Korean cuisine and art, while serving as a neutral meeting ground for Chicago's various power players. It was also a perfect cover for the actual business being conducted in private rooms like this. Deals brokered, alliances formed, territory negotiated, but all of it legal now, profitable without violence. "Well, mostly legal. Your grandmother is asking for you," Jae-sung murmured against my ear. "She's in the VIP lounge holding court with the mayor's wife." I smiled. My grandmother had recovered remarkably well from the kidnapping trauma. The new facility Jae-sung had moved her to had worked wonders, experimental treatments, activities designed to slow the Alzheimer's progression, staff who treated her with genuine kindness. She still had bad days, days where she didn't recognize me, where the past and present blurred, but she also had good days. Days like today, where she was sharp and present, and proud of what I'd built. "I'll go see her in a minute," I said. "First tell me, did the Bakes accept the final terms?" Jae-sung had been negotiating for weeks with the Bake family, using a combination of economic pressure and strategic alliances to force them to the table. Ji-won had recovered from her gunshot wound but had been quietly removed from succession. Her judgment deemed too unstable after the warehouse incident. They accepted. Satisfaction colored his voice. The North Side territories are officially ours. The Bakes keep their gambling operations but give up the loan sharking and protection rackets. And they've agreed to partner with us on legitimate import ventures. So it's over? It's never completely over. But for now, yes, peace, or as close to peace as we get. I turned in his arms, looking up at him. 3 months had changed things between us. What had started as protection and attraction had deepened into something more solid. Partnership, trust, love, though neither of us had said the word yet. Thank you, I said. For everything. The restaurant. My grandmother. For not treating me like I was breakable. You're the strongest person I know, Amara Baptiste. He kissed me softly. You saved my life. Built a business from nothing. Survived a war. Why would I treat you like you're breakable? Some men would. I'm not some men. His smile was warm. I'm yours. If you'll still have me. Always, I promised. Then quieter. 사랑해. I love you. In Korean. I'd been learning slowly, painstakingly, with tutors Jae-sung had hired. Learning the language was learning him, understanding the culture that had shaped him. His eyes widened. You've been practicing. Of course. If I'm going to be your partner, I should speak your language. Both of them. 나도 사랑해, he said back. I love you too. Then in English, marry me. My heart stopped. What? Marry me. He pulled a small box from his jacket pocket. Black velvet. Expensive. Containing a ring that caught the light and threw it back in prismatic colors. Not because of obligation or protection. Because I want to wake up next to you every day for the rest of my life. Because you make me better. Because I love you. I stared at the ring, a single diamond surrounded by smaller stones. Elegant and understated and perfect. This is fast, I managed. We've been living together for 3 months. Running a business together. Planning a future together. His smile was soft. What's fast is relative. Some people date for years and never really know each other. I know you, Amara, and I want forever. I thought about my old life, the exhaustion, the invisibility, the slow grind of survival. And I thought about this new life, the danger, yes, but also the purpose, the partnership, the feeling of being truly seen. Yes, I said. Yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto my finger, a perfect fit, because of course he'd somehow figured out my size. Then he kissed me, deep and claiming, and I kissed him back, pouring everything into it, gratitude and love, and the fierce joy of finding something worth fighting for. Below us, the restaurant hummed with life. Above us, stars we couldn't see through the city's light pollution. Around us, the world we'd built together, dangerous and beautiful and ours. I love you, I said against his mouth. Monster and all. I love you, he said back. Courageous and dangerous and perfect. And standing in that private room overlooking Chicago, with a ring on my finger and his arms around me, I thought, this is what it feels like to be found. Not saved, not protected, not even loved, though that was part of it. Found, seen, known, chosen. My grandmother had been right. You see something wrong, you stand up. I'd seen a man about to die, and I'd stood up. I just hadn't known that standing up would lead to standing beside him. Forever. Epilogue. 1 year later. The Azure Phoenix had become exactly what I'd envisioned, a cornerstone of Chicago's cultural scene. A place where East met West over beautifully prepared food and carefully brokered deals. The upper floors housed a Korean cultural center, language classes, art exhibits, traditional music performances. The lower floors served some of the best food in the city. And beneath it all, in rooms that weren't on any blueprint, the real business continued. Territory negotiations, alliance formations, the careful dance of power that kept Chicago running. But it was cleaner now, more strategic, less violent. Jae-sung had been transforming his family's operations, slowly phasing out the most brutal aspects, investing in legitimate businesses, building an empire that could survive in daylight as well as shadow. I'd helped. Not by becoming a criminal myself, but by seeing the patterns, the inefficiencies, the places where legal operations could be more profitable than illegal ones. By being his partner in every sense of the word. We'd been married for 6 months. A small ceremony, my grandmother, his closest associates, a judge who owed him favors. Nothing fancy, just promises made and kept. Now I stood in the private dining room of the Azure Phoenix, watching our staff prepare for tonight's event, a charity gala, raising money for Alzheimer's research. My grandmother's idea, though she wouldn't remember suggesting it by tomorrow. She was downstairs now, dressed in her finest, holding court with the other attendees. Having a good day, clear and present and so proud of what I'd built. "Ready?" Jae-sung asked, appearing at my elbow. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, his hair styled just so, looking every inch the successful businessman he'd become. Almost. I smoothed my dress emerald silk, elegant without being flashy. "Are all the security protocols in place?" "Yes, though I doubt we'll need them tonight." He smiled. The bake sent a very generous donation to the charity fund, their way of signaling continued cooperation. "And the other families?" "All represented, all playing nice." His arm settled around my waist. "You've built something remarkable here, Amara. A place where old enemies can meet without violence, where business happens through conversation instead of blood." "We built it," I corrected. Together, he agreed. I leaned into him, comfortable with the contact, the casual intimacy we'd developed over months of shared life. Sometimes I think about that night at the Azure Lotus, the rifle in my apron, how scared I was. And now I'm still scared sometimes. But I'm not invisible anymore. I matter. What I do matters. "You always mattered," Jae-sung said softly. "I just helped you see it." I turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd started as a stranger across a restaurant table and become my husband, my partner, my home. "No, you helped me become it. There's a difference." His kiss was gentle, reverent. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. "사랑해," he whispered. "I love you." "나도 사랑해," I whispered back. "I love you too." And standing there in the restaurant we'd built together, surrounded by the life we'd created from violence and courage and impossible choices, I thought, this is what it means to be saved. Not rescued, not protected, transformed. I'd taken a rifle meant for murder and turned it into salvation. I'd taken fear and turned it into power. I'd taken invisibility and turned it into purpose. And most miraculously, I'd taken a monster and found the man beneath. Or maybe he'd always been a man. Maybe I'd just been brave enough to look. Either way, we were here now. Together. Building something that mattered. And when my grandmother found us later, pulled us both down to her level and whispered, "I'm so proud of you, baby. So proud." I knew it was true. She might forget by tomorrow. But tonight, she knew. Tonight, she saw me. Really saw me. And I was no longer invisible. I was home. And standing in that private room overlooking Chicago, with a ring on my finger and his arms around me, I thought, this is what it feels like to be found. Not saved, not protected, not even loved, though that was part of it. Found, seen, known, chosen. My grandmother had been right. You see something wrong, you stand up. I'd seen a man about to die and I'd stood up. I just hadn't known that standing up would lead to standing beside him. Forever. Welcome back, my fierce hearts and midnight dreamers. Before we dive into what happens next, I need you to do something for me. If you're loving Amara and Jae-sung's story, hit that subscribe button right now. Tap that like button so this dangerous love story can reach more people who crave these intense, protective, cross-cultural romances. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? What moment made your heart race the hardest? Was it the rifle in the apron? The training room kiss? The warehouse rescue? I read every single comment, and I love seeing our dark romance family stretch across continents, time zones, and cultures. Your support, every like, every comment, every share, helps me keep bringing you these stories of brave women and the dangerous men who'd burn the world down to protect them. So show some love, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what kind of forbidden romance you want to see next. Now, let's see where Amara and Jae-sung are 1 year later. Find your cozy spot, take a deep breath, and let's finish this journey together. 1 year later, the Azure Phoenix had become exactly what I'd envisioned, a cornerstone of Chicago's cultural scene. A place where East met West over beautifully prepared food and carefully brokered deals. The upper floors housed a Korean cultural center, language classes, art exhibits, traditional music performances. The lower floors served some of the best food in the city. And beneath it all, in rooms that weren't on any blueprint, the real business continued. Territory negotiations, alliance formations, the careful dance of power that kept Chicago running. But it was cleaner now. More strategic. Less violent. Jae-sung had been transforming his family's operations, slowly phasing out the most brutal aspects, investing in legitimate businesses, building an empire that could survive in daylight as well as shadow. I'd helped. Not by becoming a criminal myself, but by seeing the patterns, the inefficiencies, the places where legal operations could be more profitable than illegal ones. By being his partner in every sense of the word. We'd been married for 6 months. A small ceremony, my grandmother, his closest associates, a judge who owed him favors. Nothing fancy, just promises made and kept. Now I stood in the private dining room of the Azure Phoenix, watching our staff prepare for tonight's event, a charity gala raising money for Alzheimer's research. My grandmother's idea, though she wouldn't remember suggesting it by tomorrow. She was downstairs now, dressed in her finest, holding court with the other attendees, having a good day, clear and present and so proud of what I'd built. Ready? Jae-sung asked, appearing at my elbow. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, his hair styled just so, looking every inch the successful businessman he'd become. Almost. I smoothed my dress, emerald silk, elegant without being flashy. Are all the security protocols in place? Yes, though I doubt we'll need them tonight. He smiled. The Bakes sent a very generous donation to the charity fund, their way of signaling continued cooperation. And the other families? All represented, all playing nice. His arm settled around my waist. You've built something remarkable here, Amara. A place where old enemies can meet without violence, where business happens through conversation instead of blood. We built it, I corrected. Together, he agreed. I leaned into him, comfortable with the contact, the casual intimacy we'd developed over months of shared life. Sometimes I think about that night at the Azure Lotus, the rifle in my apron, how scared I was. And now? Now I'm still scared sometimes, but I'm not invisible anymore. I matter. What I do matters. You always mattered, Jae-sung said softly. I just helped you see it. I turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd started as a stranger across a restaurant table and become my husband, my partner, my home. No, you helped me become it. There's a difference. His kiss was gentle, reverent. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. 사랑해, he whispered. I love you. 나도 사랑해, I whispered back. I love you too. And standing there in the restaurant we'd built together, surrounded by the life we'd created from violence and courage and impossible choices, I thought, this is what it means to be saved. Not rescued, not protected, transformed. I'd taken a rifle meant for murder and turned it into salvation. I'd taken fear and turned it into power. I'd taken invisibility and turned it into purpose. And most miraculously, I'd taken a monster and found the man beneath. Or maybe he'd always been a man. Maybe I'd just been brave enough to look. Either way, we were here now, together, building something that mattered. And when my grandmother found us later, pulled us both down to her level and whispered, I'm so proud of you, baby. So proud. I knew it was true. She might forget by tomorrow. But tonight, she knew. Tonight, she saw me. Really saw me. And I was no longer invisible. I was home.